Welcome to another episode of Creating Magic. I'm Paula,
And I'm Dani.
and today we are joined by our official ACOTAR correspondent, Angel, and Mayuri.
That was great.
That was
Mayuri,
great.
yeah.
Thanks. So why don't you both tell us about yourself, tell us your pronouns, where we can find you on the socials, and a little bit about yourselves. That's all.
You want to go first, Mayuri?
Sure. So my name is Mayuri, or Mayuri, as most people know me. I live in Boston. I'm super into Harry Potter and very recently very into Sarah J. Maas universe.
Yes.
And
the
I
Woobles.
and I'm very much obsessive with the Woobles now. They post me on their account every day because I post every day about my Woobles. And I go by she, her, and you can find me on socials at either my personal account, Patel MN, or my podcast account, which I am recording for and will be releasing episodes in April and May at Building Crafty Notions.
Yay.
So my name's Angel. I'm a high school math teacher, and I on the socials I am Wizard of Main Street on Instagram and Angle Paradox on Storygraph and Fable. And wait, I haven't. So I've read only ACOTAR, but Mayuri, you've read everything.
I read everything, including
Okay.
I took the day off that Crescent City 3 came out and read it in one day, 14 hours. I get a little obsessive about things.
Yeah, same.
As our warning, as previous episodes, except now it's +1 book, there will be spoilers. This episode will cover Through Frost and Starlight. Proceed with your own risk. All right, y'all have to kick this one off because you're the
All
ones
right, so
reading.
initial. All right, so
Wait, we should
Paula,
wait.
let's-
Before we
oh.
even start, I just want to say that today I'm going to keep count of how many times
Dani
Dani
shuts her
turns
video.
off her camera.
I have very specifically compartmentalized everything past Frost and Starlight. So I'm very much going to try and act as if I've not read the entire situation.
Well, be careful because I'm not done. Angel is done, but I am
I
not.
finished. I'm very much like you. As I started, I kept going. It was good. But what if we start with initial reactions? Like maybe Paula, since it is pretty recent, we can start with initial reactions, and then Mayuri, maybe you can remember this novella.
So initial reactions, I'm gonna say that it was not what I was expecting. For some reason, I don't think anybody told me that, but I was expecting Christmas cheer. And it felt very doom and gloom to me. I don't know. It just was, I had, I wouldn't say a hard time reading it, not like a Court of Thorns and Roses hard, but it felt slow and like very doom and gloom and not Christmas cheers, which was what I was expecting. Someone did say, oh, it's like a Hallmark movie. And in my head, Hallmark movies are sappy and cute.
Christmas cheer. No.
Christmas cheer. So, and I didn't get that. So.
It's funny because I had heard that before too, and I can't remember where I heard it, that it was a holiday book. Like that I was much aware of, and maybe I just assumed it was going to be Christmassy, but I feel like I had heard.
Happened.
I had said that it's like a Christmas holiday interlude.
Okay.
I never said there was cheer there, but I was like, it's like a seasonal novella. Like that's.
But you know what it is that Angel and I are very much Christmas people. So
yes,
we went
we
in
are.
Thinking holiday.
Like
you said holiday,
movie.
and we thought Christmas. It could have been Easter, and we would have been like holiday, Christmas. Boom, we're there.
Exactly. and I think I agree with you too, Paula. It wasn't. I was expecting a bunch of cheer, and I was like, I still liked it. I liked the book, but it was like, oh, everybody's still traumatized. Everybody's working through their own, problems. So, that's how I kind of reacted to it.
Yeah, when I read it for the first time, so spoiler, I read all 5 books in a week. And so
Paula just spit out her
I
water.
almost choked on my water. That's crazy to me.
yeah, I started with ACOTAR and I was like, oh, so like someone said I would like this, so let me slowly read it in my spare No, I had no spare time after that. I just ripped.
We have no chill.
I have no chill. I just ripped right through all 5 books. And so I will say in that kind of context, it was a really nice mental break because I was still absolutely destroyed from ACO War. So I went straight into reading it. Like I didn't even stop. I finished ACO War and just started Frost and Starlight. I read them both in the same day. Um, um,
There's no shame here in being a reader.
No,
that's
none.
pressure.
That's where
I'm impressed. I'm not trying to shame you. I'm hella
I
impressed.
told you it's that like, no kid lifestyle.
Yeah, exactly.
I always considered it holiday cheer because even though it was a little depressing and stuff, it was still way less depressing than what had just happened. And so I was like, cute little holiday special with a side of trauma. I liked it a lot, actually.
So I guess we'll maybe building off of that one, right? Or Dani, do you remember your initial reactions to the novella?
I do not, because I don't know if I read it in 5 days because I was probably working. But I did read them pretty back to back when I read that one. I want to ask the question, Angel, because at one point we had a conversation on if you thought you could skip it.
Yes, that's what I was going to ask you next. I was going to say, what do you think? Can you skip it? I don't know. Maybe Paula, you want to
I
talk about
can't
this one?
answer that because I'm not done. I would say no. I would say no only because I don't want to skip ahead. Because what I've read so far in Silver Flame, some of it,
is
like I'm getting
referenced.
some of the stuff from like before, and I feel like at least in Frost and Starlight, like the Lucian thing, right? Where Tamlin broke up with him. If you didn't read that, you wouldn't know that, right? Well, maybe you would, but I don't know yet.
So I mean, I did finish it. I finished Silver Flames,
But be
but
careful because if you spoil
yeah,
something, I
I'm
will
not gonna
threaten
spoil.
you on this podcast.
I'm not gonna spoil anything. I definitely tried to, like Mayuri, think about what was my experience with, because I had initially thought everybody's talking about this novella, it's boring, and Sabrina had mentioned to me you could skip it and be perfectly fine. I think I think that's I think you could be perfectly fine in the storyline, but I think there is a lot of things that are added about like nuances that you learn about the characters in Frost and Starlight that I think add a little bit of depth and to them in the next book, right? So you understand things like that when you said the Lucian and Tamlin, tension, breakup, and like I think all those kinds of little tidbits are add depth to the story. Um, so I
Yeah.
could you like Dani had mentioned one time, you could probably skip it in a read through, but I enjoyed the book more than I thought I was going to. So I don't know if I would skip it in a read through.
I wouldn't. I don't roll that way.
I wouldn't either. I would say that it is important because it gives you the emotional and situational awareness going into Silver Flames.
Yes.
So, like, you're understanding where Feyre and Rhys are with each other, where they are with the sisters, and even like where they are with the Bat Bros, right? Like everyone across the Bat Bros. And getting all of those POVs. Like some people hate the multiple POV situation in that book, and it is a lot, but it is also nice because like you're getting snippets into people's brains that you didn't before. And understanding how they're feeling before starting the next book, I think is incredibly important so that it's just like families, right? Like they're one big family. So if you don't know what's going on behind the scenes, then it makes things less impactful in the future.
Agreed.
So thinking about, because I know you guys mentioned that it was not Christmas cheer. There's a lot of everybody's kind of trauma. So let's curious to know whose trauma, I guess, sticks out to you guys the most, right? Because everybody's kind of trauma was highlighted. Whose trauma do you guys kind of remember the most?
I don't know if I remember it the most. I think for me, Nesta, only because I want to know what's going on. I had mentioned this to Dani yesterday. I want to know what happened between like her and Cassian, right? Like, why is there this disconnect when she literally threw herself in the previous book? She threw herself in front of him when they were about to kill him. Like, I was like, I want to know.
The
I
whiplash,
want to know what happened.
the whiplash of them going from like holding each other and saying we didn't have enough time, to
time.
apparently not speaking
Speaking
is
exactly.
wild to me.
Yeah. So that for me is like, okay, because like, you know me, in the last book, I was like, he loves her. And now it's like, what the hell happened?
Well, I mean, I think we definitely still get he loves her vibes
Oh,
from, yeah, you know, like
yeah.
I
You
was,
get he loves her vibes
yeah,
in this book 100%.
and her throwing his gift in the or like
Listen,
refusing to accept his gift. I was so mad.
I wasn't so mad as I was mad more that I didn't know what was inside the box.
I think I stewed
Yes.
on it for a very long time. I was like, but what was in the box?
Yeah, I was like, could he have opened it and maybe she told us what was in the box and then he tossed it? Like, you know, I'd have been like, hey, Sarah, could you like, I don't know, you described so many things. He couldn't like, you know, he had the box in his hand. He could have opened it and been like, oh, this beautiful blah, 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 before
It
he
was his-
Spoiler alert, you will find out what's in the
Yeah,
box.
you do find
Yeah.
out what's in the box.
Right. The author doesn't waste words, and it was his POV, you know, like, oh, I got her this thing, and
That took him months to
right,
find.
months to find.
I was
I would sorry.
devastated. I'm sorry. Go on. I get really like hooked on like the weirdest stuff, but that box, all I could when the book was done, I was like, what was in the box?
I'm going to tell you when I read, I remember when I read through and I finished the series, I did not specifically read the part that explained what was in the box. And so I was like, nobody knows what's in the box. And my friend was like, no, it's in there. Reread it again. Because I had read through it so fast. I just kind of like, I have a bad habit of skimming and not realizing it because you know that ADHD. So
Audio plus reading
I
changes
can't
your
do
life.
audiobooks. I can't. And even the dramatized
But I do it.
versions,
I don't do it by itself. Girl, I'm like audiobooking and reading. I still think it counts twice.
Wait, you audiobook while you read?
She reads along with the audio.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, I never considered that. I would think,
first of all,
It
you
helps
have the
with
no kid life,
comprehension.
so you have silence whenever you want. For me, I don't. So I put on my headphones.
oh, that's a cool way of reading. I didn't realize that you were doing that. That makes more sense because I always thought people who audiobook and read just switch back and forth.
Oh no,
And
no, no.
I didn't
Sometimes,
understand how chaotic that could be.
yeah. Go ahead.
you do
Oh,
that?
yeah. She does.
If you have it on Kindle and audio, they'll auto sync up with each other. So, like if I was reading and I had to go like drive, I could get in my car and it'll sync up with the page that I left off on my Kindle.
That's amazing.
It is.
I'm on Team Spend No Money, so I'm like, it's like from Libby. I have like something in SoundCloud library. I have something in Hoopla. Merging.
Yeah, I'm the opposite. I'm team spend all the money. So I bought the first book as a physical book at the airport, didn't read it for a year. And the second I read 3 chapters, I was like, oh, I can F with this. And I bought the entire SJ Mass collection, the entire thing, not just ACOTAR, all of it.
You bought like Throne of Glass, Crescent City.
Throne of Glass, Crescent City. I was like, oh, I know I'm gonna get it. So like, let's just go. Circling back, so I actually went through reading the entire book, and then months before I realized what was in that box, and it haunted me, and I was just like, "What is in the box? What did he buy her?" I only discovered it when I reread it for Crescent City. That I should have known. It was told to me, but
be careful because I don't know what it is.
I know, and I will be honest with you. I know what it is, but I think I forgot. So I forget a lot of things until I think about it. So we're trying.
Someone told me yesterday that I would not find out what was in the box.
No, you
do.
And I was like, excuse me? I was like, first of all, now I can't speak to you anymore.
Yeah.
And
they could have just done what I did though, right? Like you're reading through it and you kind of just like pass right by it. You didn't even realize that that's what you passed by.
I wrote down their name because when I do find out, I'm gonna be
you're gonna read it and you can point at them as if you were going down the.
Are they far enough in the books? Like, have they read all the books?
Yes.
Huh.
Well, it was, but I do agree with Mayuri. It was very. It does skip over.
It's like a throwaway type.
Yeah,
of thing.
It is.
It is short. It's very quick. Like
I was like, Sarah Janet. Like I don't know if you knew,
Sarah
but I agonized over this. Like what was in the box? Though I will say it was kind of like we can talk about this later, but I don't think he should have given it to her then. Like she was not in a place to emotionally.
That's Silver. That's Silver Flames talk. That's Silver Flames.
No, that's
no. At the end when she was all like pissy, like
she literally went into her room and sat in the dark after. Like
I know, with her knees. Oh,
like how sad was that? That was not the time, bro. That was not the time. I imagine the Bat Brothers as like bros sometimes, like even as
they are bros,
hard bros. I would say I feel like Reese's trauma gets like really downplayed a lot. And even though they're like small throwaway lines throughout this book, it's like interesting to read it from his point of view when he's talking to everybody. And he's just like, Feyre is having issues with Nesta. I have to do something about that. And Cassian is having issues with the war bands. Like, I have to do something about that. And I feel like it's just like such an understated trauma of his that's like, why do you have to fix everything?
Yeah, I also will add to that. Outside people don't get between sisters.
I know, you don't.
You don't. I don't care who you are. You don't.
You just don't understand the dynamics and history. And for him to constantly assert his like dislike of Nesta, and he is like, maybe for this year's holidays as a gift, I'll just stop hating her. And it's just like, excuse me, just take a step back, man. That's not for you.
No. Well, and you know what else is
he's go ahead. Sorry.
I was going to say it's also interesting when we think about these like high fae and everybody, they're immortal in the sense of like, you know, they just live long. So just dying, I guess, prematurely is also, you know, traumatizing for them. Like, right. Even though he kind of knew, but
he just died.
Right. Exactly.
He literally just died.
I don't think they talk about this. It's just like when Feyre died and then undied.
But Amren's handling everything pretty well, it seems. She's just over there with Varian.
She has Varian. She has a distraction.
Busy. And I was going through our Storygraph comments and Paula was here like, so Feyre went to go see Amren because Amren and Nesta are buddy. And she's like, I smell something. And Paula's all like, is she smelling the sheets?
It's so weird to me that these people like walk into a room and be like, ugh.
Well, it's just like, can you imagine being high fae and just having that sense of hearing and smell? And like everywhere you go, you can smell that shit. And also, like, anytime anyone goes to visit our favorite hoe, like, what does her apartment smell like?
I'm sorry. Could that be a soundbite? For real?
I will send you the audio clip so you can make a reel about that.
Okay.
But I mean, Nesta also trying to guess. I think in that same scene you guys are talking about, after her interaction with Cassian, she goes back to her apartment and she talks about not feeling anything, like just trying to feel something. Like I think that's part of the
Right. It's her
self
trauma hoe
destruction stuff.
phase is so
Yeah.
sad. Like I love that she's such a hoe, but that it stems from her trauma
Mhm.
is so hard for me to read. Sometimes I'm just like, I love this for her, but at the same time, I'm like, Jesus,
Yeah,
she's
like when
only
she
doing
came
this.
for the
Well, I
for
also
the
get like
red check.
super.
Oh, go ahead.
I get super annoyed with the others for like being like, you just need to get over the fact of everything that just happened to you and the fact you're now a new species. Like,
I think
Yeah.
that like there's no grace, and like I actually have this argument all the time, and I just like got into it with someone over text intensely because I love Nesta and I appreciate that she's a hard character to love because the things that she has done are unimaginable. But I also make the point that, like, and they make it in this book, I think that Elaine has done them as well.
Right.
Like,
But
that bitch
Elaine is
could have,
Elaine.
she could have planted a garden, but she planted flowers.
Oh, that is Danny's
It's like my
Elaine
hill to
pet
die
peeve.
on. Like honestly, at this point, like
but it's innocent, sweet Elaine that everyone wants to protect. So Elaine hasn't done anything. But Nesta, who outwardly shows her bitchy side, is the enemy.
like I just like my friends like the fact that she didn't do anything out of spite is just like I don't understand what the difference is. I would rather have a reason to not do anything than be like dumb little Elaine sitting at home oblivious making flowers.
I can't wait till we get Elaine's story and all of us just have like this moment of going, oh.
Like I hate you. I actually Elaine is one of my like she's so
Listen.
sweet, but I dislike her quite a bit.
Listen,
Everyone dislikes Elaine.
I am still I know the post and everything where somebody described Elaine as a Hufflepuff, and I was like, we're fighting, y'all, because I am
She is
no,
not.
no, she's dumb.
I think she's
She's Elaine.
houseless.
She's Elaine. She's houseless, exactly.
She's houseless.
No.
She doesn't have a strong enough conviction to land her in a single house.
She's also I think she's undecided
She's
just
a muggle.
because we don't have enough information.
Yeah,
We don't know. We really don't know a thing about her, and people put her in Hufflepuff because they're like, "Oh, she's so sweet." We're like,
I'm not sweet.
"No, you're not."
I'm not.
I was gonna
But I know I'm a
ask.
Hufflepuff.
I was gonna ask in the line of questioning about everybody's trauma, thinking about we got a lot of perspectives in this book, which was different from all the other books before. Like it was Feyre, Reese, Cassian, Moore, and I think we even got Nesta at one point too
Nesta
in the
at the
book.
end.
Yeah, we got Nesta, right? So, but I don't think we get one from Asriel or Elaine. Like we don't get a chapter from either of them. I don't remember.
No, there isn't.
It's coming.
I'm believing we are going to get that. I feel like it's specific. I feel like they are saving those perspectives for the next book.
Can I have a point of question? Are you guys reading for the pod the bonus chapters or no?
Ooh,
I haven't read any
not.
bonus chapters
Yeah.
at all.
There is a bonus chapter for Silver Flames. There's a couple.
Oh, send it.
I'll send it to you. And one of them is in Asriel's point of view.
Okay. And this is not fanfic, it's actual just
No, it's
chapter.
just
Okay.
bonus chapters
Okay.
because
Okay.
you know that money grab that they started doing.
Yeah.
Okay.
We will add those in and discuss them in the Silver Flames pod.
Okay. Well, I was also thinking like they go through a lot of people's trauma when she goes through the little art studio and everybody's,
Yeah, like the actual people's trauma.
Right, exactly. And then when she goes to the market, and one of the questions I had kind of reading this was kind of visualizing the weaver's tapestry. Like what is void? What is the void color? And what is this kind of silver thread? And I'm
It was
just kind of curious
colorless, right? Wasn't it like it was a void. There was no color.
Is there color? Well, is there a black? Well, is there a void color? A black void color? Have
So
you guys seen? Go
I've
ahead.
always assumed, so now I don't know if you guys have been following the like color community, but someone did invent like the blackest of black. I think it was a couple years ago. And honestly, seeing things painted, it feels like a void. Like it feels like the absence of light looking at it. And that's what I was picturing when I was picturing that tapestry. And then just like a very delicate silver thread embroidered along it so that it literally looked like it was persevering out of nothing.
Ooh.
So
In my head, that thread is from another series.
So is it? So did you see it? Okay, so let me just kind of understand. Did you imagine it, Mayuri, as the kind of, you know how like iridescent color works, where you look at it one angle, then it has this other kind of color?
Yeah.
I was trying to imagine, is the tapestry this kind of void black, and then if I kind of turn it one way, then I see silver, or is it like a stripe? There's just a stripe of silver through it.
I imagined it as a stripe of silver, and I assume that's just like from my experience with tapestries so far in life. It's really hard, I think, to weave in a hidden like holographic, like a gimme.
I don't
Like,
think it's necessarily like a holographic. It's just like there is thread that depending on how you're moving and the light is moving. Because in my head, that's what it was. It's like at
To me,
certain.
it was more iridescent than holographic. Like
the word I was looking for
that
was
when you move it
lenticular.
is what?
Lenticular.
Oh, that's fancy.
Who's the pin person?
I know, right?
Sorry, lenticular. So when you look at something from one way and then another way and it moves.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Okay, so that's what I was imagining the iridescent kind of like effect too, but I was just curious how the way they were describing it, I was thinking like, wait, she's saying it's like a stripe of silver, so I don't know. But okay. I did send you guys a picture of the like what I found online of the, I think it was the, like Mayuri said, the blackest black. They call it Vanta black, and
Yeah,
it looks
Vanta
like
Black.
this guy looks like he has a hole in his chest, like holding it.
It's
I don't know if
scary.
yeah.
It is actually frightening to look at, I think, to look at that Vanta Black because it is how I imagine looking at Briaxis would be
Ooh.
Mm.
like that feeling of like looking at nothing
Mm-hmm.
and like not really like having a visceral reaction to it. I will
Speaking of
never.
which,
I was gonna say I'll
Briaxis is. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
nobody knows where they is, and I will
Yes.
never get over the terror that Cassian. He must have nightmares. This poor man, like he. The memes are hilarious.
I mean, all the memes that have come from like this series are hysterical.
I mean, I'm of the kind that's just like, guys, let Briaxis live. Like, it will come back when it's ready.
And at the perfect timing.
Who knows when it's gonna?
And
like with Cassian there, be like, what?
I guess I'm gonna bring it back every pod. Is the question of, does Tamlin deserve a redemption arc?
So I have an unpopular opinion of yes. I know.
I don't know.
I don't
And
feel like I have enough information to change or.
He's just so sad in this book. And
He really is.
At the end, when he's like, "Do you think she'll ever forgive me?" One, why do you have the audacity of thinking she might? But two, like, just like the fact that he had to get so broken to that point to ask that question to her current husband. And it's just like, what is happening to you, man? You're just waiting for someone to kill you.
I told somebody that like when I read it, I thought of like Fat Thor, like sitting
Fat
on the
Thor.
couch, like I was like, that's what he like in my head. That's what I pictured.
Yes, that is actually, I mean, emotionally, yeah, I think that's very similar. I think he deserves maybe he doesn't deserve one, but that he should get one because at the end of the day, he's still High Lord of the Spring Court, and I feel like that means something. And the fact that he can't even bring himself to protect his own borders is devastating. So, I mean, either a redemption arc or he should just die. Like
He's very broken.
those are
He's
my
like,
two.
either he
two
gets a
votes.
redemption arc or
He's dead.
just
Like
out. Just leave already.
Just
Get
take him
out
out
of
of his
here.
misery.
Skedaddle.
so he just should not make things like this man at every turn in these 4 books has just made the absolute wrong decisions and just made everything worse.
Yeah.
It's just like, oh, your wife sent you a note saying she hates, or your almost wife sent you a note that's saying she's fine and happy and to not come after her. Yes. Send an entire contingent up to the Night Court to abduct her and bring her back. That's the answer. And it's just like, I don't know. I have complicated feelings that stem from hate.
At least you know where they stem from.
Yes.
How do we feel about getting to see more of the city and its people?
I liked it. I thought Messina at the first when I was reading it, I was like, she seems shady to me. I was like, is something going on here? What is this? I didn't like it. She was too friendly, I guess.
Yeah, and I saw her more as like being able to talk to Feyre like not a high lady, like talking to her like just human.
Me, I was suspicious. I was like, something's up with you.
And we saw the Illyrian camp too, like even the unrest, right, with Cassian trying to train women and then he met the shopkeeper with the clipped wings.
Yeah.
Emery.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I love seeing more of Valaris. I won't lie, that walkabout, I had myself in my feels because the part where Messina goes to her, because she's just like, we remember, that you came back for us that day. I actually started bawling. And I'm not a crier, but I just like the amount of like healing that like where they told her that like you're welcome anytime anywhere and not just as High Lady but as you, I think is so healing for Feyre because she's just like they're not inviting her because she has something to offer them. They're inviting her because they love her, like they remember what she has given up for them. And so it's just like I feel like for Feyre, who since she was 14 had to literally just sustain her family, and then she was in the war and she's just like so important to everything, everyone wants something from her and they're just like, no, like we just want you, however you can give yourself to us, like no expectations. It's so sweet. And I think it's funny that you thought she was shady at first.
I really did. I told
Paula
it
started
was
up in this
sus.
book.
It was
She's like, I
suspicious.
can't like anyone.
It's Game of Thrones trauma.
It's like everybody is sus.
Somebody's gonna die. Somebody's suspicious. I mean, like
What about
Ianthe right from the beginning. I was like,
Oh yeah.
I do not
Well,
like
she was
you.
sus.
She was sus. She was giving F your husband vibes right from the beginning. I was like, I don't like you. I don't trust you.
And what about, so then on that same line, what about your favorite character now, Paula, or favorite character up to this point? Because in the first one, it was Lucian. Like I like Lucian, and I'm going back through our Storygraph comments, and I had a comment like, man, like F Lucian, and then you also said like, like I also don't like him again.
I was
So
like, why are you being why are you having a tantrum? Okay, why? I think in this book, Cassian. Lucian, I don't even know what to do with him anymore. He's like a problem child. I'm like, I want to love you. Why don't you let me love you? He was my favorite in the first book. I really liked him.
He had good moments. I just think that he is stewing in his trauma. Like, I don't think he ever got over the trauma of growing up the youngest and like all that stuff with his old girlfriend. She his wife? I don't think so. Um,
Danny's
Our
gonna say,
Well, the episode isn't, it comes out tomorrow as of this recording, is that I said it in the last episode, but Lucian is very much a man without a home. Like, he doesn't have anything or anyone or any place to call his home, so he's just kind of lost. He just needs to figure his way.
he's had many, many, many years to figure his way a little bit, which is why he's so torn up
see,
about his
why are
breakup with
you so
Tamlin.
ready to
I I just don't
wait,
feel
I
like
have to say something. She is like, Tamlin needs, deserves or should get a redemption arc, but she's like, you've had plenty of years, Lucian.
I don't think Tamlin was an actual friend. I think it was out of duty in the way I don't buy that friendship at all.
Well, do we know? I mean, but
Careful.
I don't know. Can it also be kind of like you said, we just don't know? Because I'm gonna go back to kind of there's two things. One, so in terms of Tamlin, like there was was it in Akawar where they talked about where Reese mentioned to Feyre. No, it was in A Court of Mist and Fury where Reese mentioned to Feyre, like, there was an issue with our parents, and Tamlin's father had abducted the mom and the dad or whatever. I can't even remember the story now, but they kind of just ended up in a crappy situation. Like, it's not that they hated each other. There was just some consequences that
It's
was
a
just kind of bad
product of
timing.
the circumstance.
Right, exactly. And then they never really apologized to one another. And so that's kind of how it happened, right? Like, so Reese's dad goes and kills somebody, and then Tamlin's dad retaliates. And
I just have to clarify here. So, Tamlin's father and brother killed Reese's mother and sister. And the only reason they knew where they were was because Reese had told Tamlin. And so in retaliation, Rhysand's father went to kill Tamlin's father, and Reese did not realize that he would then also kill Tamlin's mother. And so that's where so there's a lot of history there. I understand Lucian's history with his brothers. Like, that was effed up. I just want to note. I do believe that was effed up, and he does have a lot of trauma from that, but he grew up in a very competitive, like, he grew up different than all the other ones did, right? Like, he had a competitive environment with his brothers, knowing that they were basically just vying to kill each other so that they could become High Lord. And so it's just like his trauma is different, and like, he fled and came to Spring Court because Tamlin was his friend. But at the end of the day, like, Spring is a very traditional court. And so Tamlin has a very hard line. Like, he is High Lord. Like, you cannot see Lucian talking to Tamlin the way that Cassian and Azriel and more speak with Rhys without Tamlin shutting him down. So, like, Lucian should know that, like, there is a formality there that trumps friendship, as opposed to in the Night Court, which is the difference, right? Like, in public, there's a formality, but like, you could say whatever you need to say to Rhys in private. But I think I give Lucian less grace because he has less responsibilities. Like, maybe it's just the fox mask is still in my brain. Like, I can't get over it. Like, I won't lie, the first book was comical a little bit to me because when I started picturing it, everyone forgets, like, this whole situation, everyone had masks glued to their face.
Yeah,
like,
so when I re-listened to it, because of course I've gone back now that I know what I know from Mist and Fury, I've gone back and I listened to it. I completely forgot that they had like the masks.
Always just like, well, he had a fox mask and that must mean something, right? So it's just like, and I agree that he's a man without a home and he'll let you know it. And in this book, he got broken up with. Paula, I still count with your reel, like, every time.
The process of, right when I read it, I was like, oh my God. And the song came into my head. I was gonna do like Tamlin's POV too, like him like packing up his stuff. So that might come. Who knows? With the same song.
I was gonna say that Dani mentioned that Tamlin did it kind of like out of a sense of duty, but it's like when we talk about like Dani already said this, we don't know enough. Like we don't know enough about Elaine to make a decision about what Hogwarts house she belongs to. But the same is true. We don't know enough about Eris because Eris is the one who keeps saying like, "How do you think he got to the Spring Court?" Right? Like
Yeah.
He keeps
we,
dropping these like subtle bombs, and you're like,
yeah,
Just tell us already.
just tell us, man.
right. So I
I
think
can't wait till it comes out and we're like, oh, this is some male bullshit.
I know.
You know what I keep thinking about now is like we're all talking shit about Elaine, like because all of us.
I mean, can you imagine if her book comes out and it's like, guys, she was an angel the whole time.
time exactly? It would be like, oh my
Or
god,
she's
we're
a
horrible
villain.
people.
It's
but
like
honestly,
the Tamlin stands in the second book.
Oh, I know.
I'm really not interested in an Elaine perspective as much as I'm interested in an Eris perspective. If I have to be like, if I have to be honest,
I would love Eris's POV.
right? Like, and
Absolutely.
Moore's because we don't have like that whole thing. Like, okay, yeah, Moore was left in the woods with a note, but that's about all we know. Like,
She was left in the woods with a note nailed to her abdomen.
To her
Like,
uterus.
This
we don't know enough.
factoid.
We don't, yeah, and we don't
enough.
know.
That's enough.
Yeah, yeah, it's enough.
I would love to like really be able to dig into that. More in itself is a conundrum for me because like she came out to Feyre in the last book. And everyone's like, oh my gosh, she came out. How great for her. And I'm like, this woman knows that she is gay. And she knows that Asriel has had a thing for her for like 500 years or whatever. 200, 300, however many hundreds of years Asriel has had it on for her. She doesn't have to tell him, but like it is crazy that dynamic. The dynamic of Moore and the boys.
And the boys.
I don't care if they're 500 years old. They're all boys. Seriously, snowball fight. Annual snowball fight.
Illyrian babies.
Seriously. The Illyrian war camps were really interesting, though, to see like Cassian's struggle and needing and Rhys trying to figure out like the equilibrium of helping him versus siding too far. So like, because he basically has these warrior people who are really traditional and he hates the traditions, but seeing him having to compromise what Cassian's wanting, which is insane to me that Devlin is one of the more like progressive Illyrian war camp leaders. And you're just like, I can't, man. Like, it's hard for me to read those things. It also makes me wonder, like, because you learn the story of what Cassian did to the war camp he was born into with his brothers, and you're just kind of like, why do you still love these people? Like, why do you feel so indebted to this culture? Which was a nice nuance to learn about Cassian.
Look at her face. Dani's face. She didn't turn off the camera, but she went.
I know. I feel like I'm compartmentalizing very much. You have to let me know if I'm doing a good job, Dani, because I'm trying to.
We would have stopped you already. Dani would have stopped you.
Yeah.
Of not.
You're still okay.
Anything in Silver Flames.
You're
yeah.
still good.
I mean, Paula, what did you think about like an angel? What did you think about learning more about the dynamic in the war camp and how like Cassian has to deal with it?
Well, I anticipated the next like because I was like, okay, so the war with Hybern is over, right? So now the conflict is going to be about what do we do with the cauldron, but the cauldron's over with Miriam and Drakon on an island somewhere. And so what's the next conflict? Like, because there's this whole other, Silver Flames book, right? So I was like, oh, we're learning about the civil unrest. So the next conflict is going to be about like maybe civil war, right? So that's kind of how what I was anticipating. Was going to be the focus of Silver Flames because of Cassian being like, it is weird that Cassian does feel like they're still like, I'm still Illyrian and I'm still proud to be Illyrian, even though they're backwards.
But I feel like he's proud to be Illyrian, and he still is, because like now I can't remember if it happened in this book, but that change takes time, and he feels like if he's not there to impose his feminist views, that things will never change.
I feel like he believes he can make a change, and although they have done all these horrible things, it is the only, like, yes, the Bat Boys are his brothers, but these are the people he came from, and the only connection he has to his mother, who he cared very fondly about.
But to be fair, he didn't meet
Yeah,
his
but
mother.
he's still
Right. I'm not
that
to say he
wasn't
doesn't
his
care.
choice. It
Yeah, I
wasn't
know,
his
I know.
choice.
I'm just saying, but it's something, I think that's where it stems from.
It's
right?
like his only attachment to
Right,
his mother.
exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah,
It's the
that's
only
my
thing he
point.
has.
It's all he has left.
Yeah.
So I think that's why he's so like hell bent on like
Making a difference.
them.
making a
Right.
difference.
But it's also like making sure what happened to his mother does not happen again to the
Right.
best of his ability.
And now that you
He's
guys
a
bring up this,
fixer. He's a fixer. He's trying
He's
to
a
solve
fixer.
problems. He's a protector and he's a fixer.
And also, like literally like a born killer. Like
That
yes.
He's a fixer and a born killer.
yes, I love him so much. He's
That
like, what
too.
is his nickname? The Master of Bloodshed or something. I'm just like,
Yeah.
Jesus.
However, he failed at teaching people to detect poisons in their apples. Can you tell I was just editing, so I have the last episode very like fresh in my brain.
And when you guys talk about mothers, I thought about an interesting thing. Everyone always seems to ship Azriel and Elaine, and you kind of get a lot of that in this book. Like I feel like I hear like, oh, get Azriel and Elaine, right?
And
Like
he's
they
like,
I think it's because it seems natural at the current moment of where
it's not a shipping. I wouldn't say it's a shipping, but I feel there's something there.
right. But
Like,
I thought about it. Well, go ahead, Paula.
go ahead. No.
Oh.
That was my only.
Oh, okay. Well, I was gonna say that when they go back to dinner at Solstice, and Azriel stops Cassian from eating because he says, "Wait till everybody's at the table." Like at that moment, I thought about, wait, you know what? Maybe Azriel doesn't love Elaine in like or like some spark in a romantic way, more so in like a motherly way. Like I think maybe he sees a relationship
Do you
as
think
like,
he's looking for a mommy?
well, I don't know. I think
No, but
because-
but you're right, because Reese, like when Feyre like sends him when they send her
like
telepathic
what the F?
messages,
Yeah.
she was like, what the hell was that about? And he's like, oh, he has like these things, and to me it was
special.
like a respect thing.
I see it as a
Right.
respect thing.
Yeah, like, hey, like stop being such a
I think
rude
my point is,
and wait till everybody's sitting down.
my point is that I think he's super nice and caring for Elaine because she might remind him of his mother. That's my point. Not that they have a romantic relationship, right? And for all we know, like, because Azriel has the whole shadows or whatever. What if his mom was a seer too?
I wish. See, sometimes
we
I
don't
wish
know
we
that.
had video.
Right? Like we don't know if Azriel's mom was a seer or
we
had
don't
some
know much about him, so it could be motherly, sisterly, like he sees a former relative in her.
Right. So that's kind of how it's because I had seen it somewhere on Instagram.
So excited
like I said,
to talk
when I
about
stopped.
Silver Flames and who I want to see with Az.
Right. But I was talking about like just so many, like when I went through the explore page, how a lot of things sometimes get spoiled or you see something. I think I had just seen at some point like shipping, because we know the Cassian Nesta tension's there. Reese is already with Feyre. Like the next like logical thing, we're like, oh well, maybe Azriel and
It's like a
and
sitcom,
Elaine.
like
right,
a sitcom.
exactly.
All the
So
siblings end up together.
exactly, you see.
Well,
So
it's like a romance novel trope. I'm a big romance novel fan, and a lot of the books that I read come in sets. So it's like, ooh, the whatever cove, these sisters own a bakery, and each book is, them meeting their match. And so I feel like a lot of people are like, well, there's three sisters and there's three bat boys, and like obviously this is what's gonna
Obviously.
happen. 'Cause
right.
that's
So
I don't
that's
know, but I felt like there's something there, right? And maybe you're like you said, it could be platonic. It's not, like when he gave her the truth teller, right? Like,
right.
and everybody was like, "Oh, he's
that was
never
such a
done that."
moment because like
Right.
he
Like,
never
and
does that.
then she fucking stabbed the king in the neck with like maybe like I don't know if he like gave it to her because he felt like I know that if I give this to you, you'll feel safe, or I don't know. But
And
I just felt like there's something there. Maybe they're just besties. I don't know.
right. And I really do hope, like, kind of a little bit how Danny said, because Elaine is so blah, I hope
Yeah.
it's not her for him. I really hope it's just like, oh, he does see her as somebody. She
I'm
reminds
gonna
him
say
of family.
this Christmas cheer, okay? Christmas cheer. My favorite gift was hers to him.
It was
That was
so
That was my
nice.
favorite
Yes.
gift because
So
she was,
thoughtful.
and right when I read it, I was like, oh my god, he is always like rubbing his temples like people.
Like a lifetime with Cassian, I feel like would cause
Yeah.
that.
But that was like my favorite gift that they exchanged was the gift she gave him. I just thought it was thoughtful, it was funny,
Yeah.
and it gave me some of the cheer that I needed.
Speaking about the gifts, I wanted to go back. I realized I left a comment on Storygraph when Feyre was thinking about painting, and got inspired to paint by the Weaver tapestry, like the tapestry making, and saying like that's the way I have to express it because that's all I have left. I had asked a question like, what do you think Feyre's first painting is going to be? Do you remember? And do you guys remember what it was?
The first painting?
Like, yeah, because like, what's her first painting going to be?
Her first trauma painting?
Her first trauma painting, I should say. Yeah.
Like
Do you
at
guys
the
remember
end?
what it was?
Or when she paints in the...
Didn't she paint herself?
She painted
Yeah,
herself, what she
right.
sees in the Ouroboros mirror.
Right. But and that's what I was like. I had just had a question. I remember in the Storygraph chat, like,
Oh,
what do you
yeah,
think
like
she's gonna like?
throughout
Obviously, she's
reading.
gonna paint, right? Yeah, like obviously she's gonna paint. But what do you think the
Stick
first one's gonna
figures.
be?
Did I answer?
Her stick figures. Yeah. You had said. Well, I think we had talked about Dark Boppy's sketchbook and him always hinting like,
Oh.
"Hey, paint me like one of your
Like
French
one of your
girls."
French girls.
I
But
feel like that's something that Cassian wants.
Well, they're all brothers. They're all brothers, right? Because they kid.
What
I mean,
did
they
you
did.
think? Because I had a conversation about this with someone today. What did you think about the dress thing? Like all the
Oh my
dresses she
gosh!
wears
I
were
thought
made by his
One of
mother.
our first episodes that we did, we had talked about her dresses, and this was the moment that I was like, what book did that happen in? And
We were
I
waiting
stopped
for this
talking
moment.
because of
this was the moment Danny did.
This was the moment. Yeah.
So I find it funny that in that conversations, he's like, you haven't figured it out yet. And I was like, who would have figured that out? Nobody figured that out.
It's funny. I had thought they were his mom's dresses, as in like her actual dresses.
Hand-me-downs.
And I did thought that, and I thought that's kind of weird. I don't think that's the case, but I did think they were connected to his mom in some way. I didn't make the connection she was a seamstress. Right.
Yeah, me neither. I did
I
love
go
that
into
she was a seamstress. I do
Right.
think the person I spoke, well, it was Chanel. Chanel had said that she thought it was weird. I said, I don't think it's weird. I maybe because I think it's weird that she knew her size.
That's exactly it. Like I
Right.
read that line and I was like, practically, like, how did she know how tall she was going to be? How, like, her measurements, like her style? Does she have big boobs or small boobs? Like, what is happening? Like, how did she design these dresses
Feyre can also change her body
to fit the dresses?
to fit the dresses.
But yeah, I thought it was very sweet. It did make me, that was one of my
Tear up moments?
tearing
Yeah.
up moments.
It's just so sweet.
But I do agree with I did watch the recap video. The girl was like she was like, "Oh, he said, oh, you haven't figured it out?" She couldn't figure out the riddle. You thought she was going to figure out that these dresses were made by your mother?
Well,
I
she
gotta
did.
say, I did not figure out the riddle either because I was just reading through it and I was like, no, this doesn't make
I
sense.
have told everybody, if your life depended on me figuring out a riddle, girl, you're dead.
Goodbye.
Ended.
But like, it's not like we have information on his mother either. It's not like we
Yeah.
have like this vast knowledge of her. So I'm like, what? We know very little. Why would we figure this out?
I think we finally
it's-
find out like their age gap between her and his dad. I don't know if they ever mentioned it before, but they mentioned in this book.
Yeah, and he was 900 and she was 18.
Yeah, that's that fairy tale age gap.
I shared one of those like the castings that Chanel's been doing. And she loves Jason Momoa, so she had put like Cassian as him, and somebody was like, "He's too old," and I was like, Cassian's 500 years old, so
Yeah,
get out of here, you're garbage."
I have only ever pictured Jason Momoa as Cassian, or a younger Jason Momoa as Cassian.
He's perfect.
And we also don't know, like, going back to Feyre and the dresses, like, do they have the ability to see into the future? I can't remember if they've talked about it. Like, because Elaine gets pictures of the future, like just how far can you see? And like, think about it. If we think about all the clues, like the mom told him, "Here's the ring," but she's got to be able to fight the Weaver. Like, I'm
Do you think
now
she
I'm
had
suspecting.
the gift?
I'm
You
thinking
think his
she might have
mom's
had
a
a gift,
seer?
maybe, or some sort of thing. Like she saw that. I don't know.
I could believe that because like I feel like they treat Elaine's gift as so odd because like they didn't realize that what was happening. They just thought she was being really weird. They're like, oh yeah,
Well, I was
okay,
like,
Elaine,
what
thank
the
you.
hell's going on? You're crazy.
Thank you for that addition to this conversation that made absolutely no sense.
I'm still upset about something she said, and I'm telling you right now, I'm not
I think
ready.
I know. I think
It's
I know
when
what
it's
you're
she
talking
said.
about.
Well, she said in Akawar, Cassian was like, "Oh, I don't know what
Oh,
Cassian's
he was
comment
just like, I'm not that hard to kill, and she
Kill
said,
Raya.
you'd be
Yeah.
surprised.
It
or
wouldn't be
something
that
like
Exactly.
easy,
It
and she
wouldn't.
was like,
It actually would.
Yeah, it is.
it
Yeah.
actually, yeah, it is. And I was like,
That gave me so much
take
anxiety.
that back, Elaine.
So I mean, I think I ended up coming to that point too that maybe she was some sort of seer where she would get pictures of the future because like why else would she do that? Like, here's some dresses I'm making for your future bride because I know that I might die. Like,
Or
or is it like a thing that is actually like done in
Or it's
fairy
tradition.
culture? Like, is this a normal tradition we just have not heard about yet?
right. Or
That,
if she
like,
went to go see
The
the
mom
bone
creates the
carver.
dowry.
I think maybe that's why he's just like, you haven't figured it out yet, like
And
because
she's
it
like,
is
no, dude, I've
possibly-
not been a fairy my entire life. I didn't know this was a thing.
She's only been a high fae for a year, which we found out because she got her period.
Yeah.
Which
Oh,
was
that's crazy.
That. I'm very torn between like, would I rather have my period for like 1 week, 2 weeks a year?
like two
And it'd be super
let's just be
painful?
clear, like extremely excruciatingly painful.
Yeah. I mean, I did 26 hours of labor without epidural. So,
Jesus. So like that.
right. But would I want to do that for a whole week? Hell no.
But like, I wonder. We also don't have the smelling capability of high fae. I will never remove myself from this like heightened senses situation.
I apologize, Angel.
I have nothing to add at this point.
Angel, we talked about it about how
Right,
like
no,
it was
yeah.
like crazy. Like
I told Sabrina, I was like, wow, so Faye have their period twice a year for 2 weeks, and
But now it makes
And it
sense
hurts.
why babies
It's so
are so
hard for a
rare.
baby because the
Yeah.
ovulation cycle is insane.
Yeah.
that's why I had asked, I had kind of mentioned like, oh, so why aren't the Fae overpopulated? Right. But it was because, they don't ovulate regularly or the way the humans do. And it's just hard in general. So
Also, I think with their like expanded life cycles, like, can you imagine? Okay, can you imagine having a baby? Your life could be up to what, 1,000 years? So like, objectively, like, you want to spend a few hundred years on your own
I mean,
finding
if you
your
could
mate.
live that long, at some point, wouldn't there be like overpopulation? I have been thinking about this way too much. Like,
Well, if you think about
I
the
get the
Illyrians,
babies are rare, but I'm like, okay, so people are living for like Reese's dad, 900 years old. Like,
That's why there's so many wars. That's how they handle it. That's their
that's
population
population
control.
control.
There's their
Population
wars.
control.
And
they
it's
even
like
talk about-
Feyre did say, like, oh, I can see why it's not boring in the Fey realm. Like, there's all this drama between High Lords.
I mean, like, the spring court is practically non-existent at this point.
So it like begs the question, how many high fae are there actually? Because like when you're thinking about Valoris, like there's a lot of like lower fairies that live there. It's not populated with high fae. I think there's high fae like nobility families, like the ones that live along the river, maybe. But like I don't think there's as many high fae like creatures as we think. And so like finding your mate might not be like they say almost people almost never find them.
you said
Except for
creature,
this
and I just thought
family.
about something during Moore's POV when I think she's on a horse.
Yeah, in her
She
secret
runs into
estate.
that like
on her secret
weird,
ranch.
yeah. She like sees this thing that sees her, but
Oh,
there's
from
like
the
really no
shadow
like.
from the woods.
I thought it
Yes.
was Briaxis for a moment.
I
Like,
thought it was gonna
hearing it
Briaxis was gonna bust out like the Kool-Aid man, be like, oh,
back. But she seemed frightened. Well, I mean,
Yeah,
she
yeah.
seemed frightened of it, but everybody was frightened of Briaxis too. So, but what
But
is
she
it
would,
then?
but she is aware of what Briaxis is at this point, so I don't
like
think
she
she would
wouldn't
be
be
as
frightened
frightened.
of
She'd
that,
be
I
like,
think.
"Oh, there he is."
Let me tell Reese
Let me text Reese and let him know.
Like, I feel like her
through the
fear was
mind
more
link.
of the unknown of it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's just like
Yeah.
unsettling because it seems like she hasn't been back for a while to her secret estate with all of her horse. Look, who's taking care of her horse? I can't.
We don't
with
know
the
anything
secret
about more.
estate.
Yeah.
I was just like,
They also
is it?
wouldn't like have it be Briaxis and not say that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I think so because we
But I'll
know
tell
who
you what,
Briaxis
that
is.
scared me because I am very much a fear of the unknown. Like, look, I'll touch a snake, whatever. You know, I'm not scared of stuff
But to
like
put
that.
your
But
hand in a dark box, no.
hell, never, never. I don't even like to put my hand in the like garbage disposal. Like sometimes, you know, you
Oh
have
my
to.
god,
That
I've
freaks me
watched
out.
too many Final
I
Destinations for that.
watch the switch like 3 times before I'm like,
What if there's
let
an
me make sure nothing's
electrical like
near it just in
weird
case I'm
thing?
like, shh. Um,
And
but
the thing with Moore in this book is like I feel like she's kind of like a non-entity until that last like her POV. And I just like don't know, for a woman whose power is the truth, she has so many secrets.
Well, hold on. Do we know Moore's power is truth? Because I was thinking a little bit about what is Moore's
Well,
gift.
they don't
They-
explain what it is, but
they
they're just
don't
like
explain.
I am the Morrigan, like, and all of this stuff. And I was just like, but what does that mean?
Right. I don't know. I just think we don't. Like, it's like Danny keeps saying, we don't know enough about Moore. We don't know enough about Eris. I don't really care to find out more about Elaine. But I
feel
do.
like Moore's point of view is also setting up that in the future, I think we're gonna get a lot more of her
More.
POV.
Yeah.
And as a teacher, can I just say, kind of, as we're reaching, I don't know if we're reaching the end of the pod or not, but as a teacher, I really appreciated the school that Feyre opened
Oh
up
my God,
for
it's so
painting,
cute.
and not just like a school for like anybody, but it was free of charge, right? It's free to
Yeah.
everybody. Um, and I was curious, like, oh, are they going to pay at least the teachers or something? Like, is Feyre going to pay the other teachers who kind of come and help lead it? I don't know, but I like that it was a school she opened up to help kids, express things through art, and it was free to everybody.
Well, it brings it back to one of my favorite characters, right? The surreal. It's like make this
R.I.P.
world a
That's
better
surreal.
place.
Then
Like that's the only thing
Danny,
he
where's
asks
your
of
heart?
her, right?
where's your heart?
Where's your heart, Danny?
I love the surreal, but that's why it's just like it's really. Oh my god, what is that?
Found out by accident.
Danny
It only
has
like
the
Danny's very good at it.
it's
Is
you gotta
it like
you gotta
a?
have the recognized hand gestures on.
Yeah, there's a few,
There it
and
is.
there's
I don't think I
also,
have.
I haven't gotten the balloons yet. You're supposed to be like jazz hands.
I think it's
Yeah.
like
No, I think it's just like an understated trauma. Like the cereal was so important to Feyre and it kind of left her with a task, right? Like,
Mm-hmm.
and throughout this entire book, she's like doing too much. She's doing all the things. She's donating all of her time and all of her energy into like rebuilding. But I think that school is just like really hammering home that message that like leave this world better than you found it. Oh my god, I love this.
Well, and it's by doing it with something that helped her through her childhood trauma was art.
As a teacher, I connected to the first day of the art studio being open and that kid causing a scene. I was like, oh yeah, welcome to the teacher life.
That tracks.
And that's why I think this book is like very holiday cheery. Like there's so much trauma, but there's so many like cutesy moments that you don't really get from the other books. You're like, oh, how cute.
And now Feyre has a friend who isn't like family, which sometimes
Yeah.
you just need a friend that's not
that's not attached. It's not
related.
like it's her friend. That's not
or that
like a friend
if
that
you,
she
like,
met.
Yeah, and it's just like sometimes when you're like, oh, I'm gonna go vent to this person, but they're in my family, so now all of a sudden Reese knows too because they felt it was concerning. I'm like, I just wanted to talk to someone. Any other thoughts on our Frost and Starlight?
No, I definitely think you can't skip it. So
I wouldn't like Paula, I wouldn't recommend, or Danny said in pods before, I don't think I'd recommend skipping it, especially on your first read through. I wouldn't skip it. It's nice and wholesome.
I'm like, you can on a reread. I personally would
I
not.
wouldn't.
I wouldn't, but like I know there's some people that are like, it's not worth it. I think it's also such a short book. Like, what's the point of skipping it? It's so short.
like this is a baby book.
It was a novella.
A novella.
And then we're handed Silver Flame.
Oh my god, the biggest book of the stack.
I'm not done. I'm only 30% in, okay?
It's
Relax.
good.
Well, we
It's
can't
so
talk
good.
about it on here. This is spoiler free for Silver Flames.
Yes, it is.
That's
I
true.
cannot wait to speak so freely.
I know.
I'll send
The
you
next
guys.
episode is going to be 3 parts long.
Yeah,
Danny's
I'll-
going to
It's
be
gonna be
like,
me the whole time.
I'll send you guys the link to the bonus chapters. There is an account on Instagram that not only posts every page in her stories, but she in the beginning will give you the context of if you want to read it during the read, where you should read it.
oh,
That's nice.
I like that.
Yeah.
So does only Silver Flames have a
I think
bonus chapter?
I sent you one for A Court of Mist and Fury had a bonus chapter or something.
Oh, I haven't read it.
I had sent it in the chat, but I didn't read it. I was like, oh, we're gonna go to Wings and Ruin. Let's go.
It gets very frustrating, especially like with Crescent City, the recent release.
There's so many.
Every single bookstore had a different chapter. So it would be like Barnes and Noble's, Books a Million, Walmart had an exclusive. The Canadian Indian indie like bookstore had their own chapter. We're like, well, can't get the one in Canada. I was like, Kayleen, you better order this one.
Yeah, and that's why I found a few accounts online that posted them. So
Yeah.
once you
That's
yeah. But it is frustrating because it's just like the bonus chapters have no impact on the storyline. It generally just gives you a little bit more context to characters.
Mm-hmm.
So like really you don't need to read them, but like a lot of once you start looking at the memes and the theories and stuff, a lot of them actually start stemming from the bonus chapters.
Yeah.
Well, and like part of the thing is like one of the exclusive chapters, which was advertised like on the front cover of Crescent City, was a spoiler, like major spoiler.
Mm-hmm.
On the front cover?
Because they'd have a sticker, they're like, this character and this character bonus chapter.
So when you see who the POVs are, that instantly
because that's how they're like
is a
Cassie and Nesta
spoiler.
bonus chapter, and they say like the 2 characters it will be.
Yeah.
And there's one that's a huge spoiler, and it was just a sticker straight on top of this book, and we're like, well, now we know something's
Thanks.
happening.
Yeah.
So just for future, are the Crescent City Throne of Glass written in the same style as the ACOTAR, and where each chapter is like a POV, or a series of chapters is a
It's
POV?
usually yes, and you get it's
So Throne of Glass, I think you get one POV for a good portion of it,
yes.
and then it starts splitting POVs.
Yes.
Crescent City is, I can't remember if the first one split the POV. I feel like it was mostly.
I think the first one was Bryce and Hunt.
Yeah.
And then like in the second one we
They
start
started
getting
splitting.
Rune and not Jacob and
I will say the third one had many.
yes. Yeah, because
Many
we're like
POVs.
all the characters are coming together in the third one.
So it was a little chaotic.
See, I
Okay.
read like that type of thing not regularly. So like the POVs, like I didn't realize some people took issue with it until someone said it while doing this read through. I was like, oh.
So I actually saw a very funny TikTok about Frost and Starlight, and it was literally someone complaining. They like threw the book in the trash because they were like, I hate this book. There's so many POVs. Like, what is it even? Like, what is this situation? And I was just like,
I feel like it makes it easier to read. I don't know. I like
again, it's like very much like Frost and Starlight, I think, is very much like a lighthearted reprieve after ACOWAR that also gives you a firm setup for Silver Flames.
Okay.
But like I don't generally read a lot, so I read mostly Hermione fan fiction 80% of the time. So like reading actual books and stuff, it was always interesting because I'm only used to like the 1 or 2 points of views, Hermione and Draco. So I think it's just like as long as you can follow it and as long as it like gives to the story, I think it's good, but it's not always.
Well, speaking of books, what are y'all reading right now?
Should I start? I'll start.
Yeah. Go ahead.
I finished Silver Flames, so that was fun. I loved it. I am now going to start Kingdom of the Cursed. It's the second one in the Kingdom of the Wicked series. It just like ACOTAR, they don't have the numbers on them, so I didn't know. I started reading the third one in the series, and I was like, "What's this character do?" Like, it seemed really not in the same place it ended. So, I realized I was on the third one instead of the second one, so I went back. But yeah, I'm gonna start the second one, and
Oh no,
hopefully
that's the worst. I would be like, I'd give up.
Paula, what are you reading?
I am, well, Silver Flames. And I started Friends, Lovers, and the Big Terrible Thing, which is Matthew Perry's memoir. I like memoirs.
And then
love
are
Friends.
you only reading Hermione fan fiction right now?
No, I did finally download Fourth Wing. So I am gonna think about starting it, but
I love how you're like, I'm gonna think about starting it.
mind you, I bought both books. I didn't even rent them from the library. I bought them both. They're both on my Kindle. And every time I start to read it, I get to the map and I'm just like, oh, I don't know, guys. I'm not mentally prepared. I want to crochet right now. But I always read Hermione fan fiction, but I'm actually currently rereading one of my favorite Twilight fan fictions.
Oh my God.
So you've read Twilight then, Mayuri?
Yes, I have read Twilight.
Paula, you haven't read Twilight.
No, and I'm not going to.
Don't.
There's nothing that you can do to convince me to read that.
Have you watched Twilight?
I watched them recently, like a year ago.
I am of the opinion that the Twilight movies are much better than the books, personally.
Okay.
So I think that's enough. I actually like love Twilight. I
I
just
don't know how
really
something so bad
dislike
can
the
be better,
books.
but I don't. It was horrible. And again, I know that that part of it is because of my age, but I'm watching it and I'm like, this is horrendous. Like I cannot believe that this was like a thing. Like
It
I can't
is
believe
pretty
people were
bad.
fighting over Jacob and Edward.
Stop it. I am fully I was team Edward, but now I am team Billy.
Oh,
Um
I am Team Billy. I could,
or Charlie, team Charlie
yeah.
technically, but Billy Boyd. No, it's really funny because I read the books in college and I disliked them. They were terrible. And then I watched the movies and objectively I can tell that they're terrible, but I have somehow created this like attachment to them. And so they're comfort movies. I watch them all the time. All the time. Like the fall is Twilight season. And as a result, I'm also quite attached to the 50 Shades movies because I read it when it was Twilight fan fiction on fanfiction.net. Um, and then it became a book and it didn't get better. So, um, but yeah, so just because something is bad doesn't mean you can't enjoy it in the future.
Facts.
Mayuri, I have a question because I know we've asked Paula too, like just as someone who's read the series, how do you get people to get through the first one of Akatar? Right? Because right now Paula's struggling to get through Fourth Wing, and I heard you're also
I'm
struggling to get through
struggling to
Fourth Wing.
start it because I've
Right.
heard that it's a struggle. Social capital. I guilt them into it. I very much, and I'm like, have I ever steered you wrong? Like, yes, sometimes, but the ones that were good were
Sometimes.
great. The ones that were good were great. So trust me on this. I would not have made it my new personality if it wasn't great.
Right.
One of my
That's kind of my
one of my
thing
friends is
too.
currently slogging through Throne of Glass, and she's like, does this get better? Because I'm having a hard time. And I was just like, trust me, it will get so good that I have decided to put an entire back tattoo on my body based off of it. Like, I can't. Sorry for cutting you
You're
off,
gonna be
Paul.
of the 13.
Yes. I'm working with Stina to figure it out. Yeah.
Now I'm not even gonna be able to look at your tattoo until I'm done.
I'm like,
Like, can
Paula,
I see
you
your tattoo?
cannot
No, you
look.
can't. It's a spoiler.
Sorry, what were you gonna say before?
I was saying that, like, for me, Akatar took me again. I was not a reader. Now I can't even say I'm not a reader. Um, I was not a reader, and I had a really hard time getting through Akatar. It took me 3 months, and then I don't know. I think it took me like a month to finish the second one, and then War. I don't even think it took me 2 weeks.
I think it
Which
took
is
you a week.
wild with how big the book is.
I was just like, I can't put this down. I betrayed my book club, uh, and like read ahead. Um, but
I
yeah,
think it
so
also helped. Like, I know you read it really fast, but you also had a week where you were not working. And I think that's like a
yeah,
big that's a big effect to it because you have the free time to actually be able to just sit and read that
yeah.
doesn't require you
I mean, I
staying up
don't
till
think I
2
was
a.m.
reading like that much more than I am like on a
Really?
reg because I was, yeah,
Also, I'm
because
pretty sure we got it on record. Maybe we should go back. I should go back and listen. But I think Paula told us she was like 60 or 70%
Oh,
of
that's
way through the
right.
book before the cruise.
before I got on the
That's
cruise, I was
right.
already
I know
like
she
60.
finished it. I remember seeing that in your stories that you were like just reading it on vacation, which I think is wild. Um, but I
I
can't
liked
say
when you were
anything.
stalking the person that was also reading.
Yeah, I know. She walked by. I was like, "Are we friends now?"
It's like I'm also reading this book.
But yeah, just the whole. My God, I could talk about that chapter 74, um, where Reese dies. I just and how I stepped away for like 2 hours because I was like, I can't believe that this spoiler because I actually ran into it as a spoiler. on Instagram. And, and it was like when they told me I was having twins and I struggled thinking about how I was going to have one baby for 5 days. And then I had like this 2 hour like cry fest. And then I go back and I was like, oh, he's alive. I'll tell you what, if it was a physical book, it would have ended up in the fucking pool. I was like,
Oh, yeah.
but it was my
Toss
Kindle,
that.
so I did not.
What are you reading, Dani?
I am reading Bewitched by Sophie Morgan. It is
Bewitched? Like when you unwitched? Do you get unwitched?
Yes.
Oh.
So the first book is called The Witch is Back, and it is, in fact, like a witchy rom-com, and I really just like it. So
I'm a big rom-com reader.
I read it just because I was like, oh, this seems witchy and cool and like on my vibe and like low key, like no major like attachment issues like ACOTAR.
You have trauma from the SJM universe.
I just I needed a good filler book. So, and I had found that one, so I read that one. And then I just started this one. I'm only like 2 chapters in. It comes out in August for people that want to read it. So,
Nice.
read the first one.
What's it like reading a book normally? Because I have not been able to do that.
Normally, I'm reading it like 6 months in advance.
I mean, that's true. Are you like you said you were a pre-reader, right?
I have an advanced reader copy.
Yeah, no. Well, I downloaded Fourth Wing and I was like, let me try and read this at a normal human pace. And the only people who responded to my question, like, how long did this book take you, was like 2 days. And I was like, that's not a normal human pace.
Well,
the one who read the ACOTAR series.
Yeah, you had read the entire series in a week.
In a week.
I need you to know I also read Throne of Glass in a week.
So then Fourth Wing and Iron Flame should take you what, a day?
But that's why I don't want to do that, because I become all consuming. So like the Crescent City books, I was on vacation in Europe, avoiding starting them because I knew the second I would start, it would be game over, and I was like living my best European life.
That's why you said that me reading on vacation was
wild, because what I ended up doing, I got sick while I was in Rome, and so I was like, well, if I'm going to sit in a dark room anyway, I might as well read Crescent. I did not sleep for 2 days. I read both books in 3 days. And when I got the new one, I should have taken a time lapse of myself because I was psychotic. I picked it up at midnight and I read through until like 8 a.m. and then took a nap and then woke up and kept reading it. Like, it was...
I should have taken the day off for that one.
I'm glad I took the day off because I was unhinged while I was reading this book. I was screaming.
I am anywhere near that level of wanting to know something so bad that I spend 80% of my day reading. There's no way.
Well, and the other part of it, though, is when a book releases, you're like
spoilers,
trying to beat spoilers. So, like, I shut down. I'm like, no one's going to spoil this for me. Like, I was just saying, but also, I will say, what book series started me on this path? Harry Potter.
I used to go to midnight releases, and as a 16-year-old, read the book as soon as I get home. I had a thing.
I didn't even make it home. I'd be in the car
reading. Yeah, it was dark. My mom hates that. But I would read it that night, go to bed around 6 or 7, wake up around 11, and start reading it again. I would read it 2 times in one day because it always came out in the summer. And so I had the time. And so I would do it. And I feel like that's where I got that, like, and also spoilers. The unhealthy obsession with like reading things. Spoilers are a huge thing to me. It is actually amazing to me that you guys are reading these books, and with the way that Instagram, TikTok, all those algorithms work, like, it is just throwing spoilers at you.
I've only run into that one thing, and the only thing I'm glad about is that it's already passed, because all I kept thinking was, if this doesn't, I didn't want it to happen, right? First I was like, I hope it's fake. And then I was like, if it does happen, I hope it happens in this book, because I don't think that I could get through 2 more books wondering if Reese is going to die.
I'm curious to see what happens and how you guys respond once we have a new book. Because you started them after they were all up.
I will be at the midnight. I will not be at the midnight release, but I will have the midnight release.
Like, I'm very curious to see what that looks like for Paula specifically, who was not a reader prior to this.
I mean, but I was a Harry Potter reader.
Yeah, but
I was a midnight release, but I was also an adult that could drive myself there.
You know, Paula, I had a conversation with Sabrina the other day talking about how excited I was for you, how you kind of feel like a reader now and everything, and you really love this series. And we were talking about how like you didn't really you're concerned because you're scared of not loving another series as much as you love this one. And I was thinking, like, I realized like that's okay. But you know, like it's okay if you don't love another series as much as you love. It is okay,
but what about if right there, like I start the fourth wing thing concerns me. I'm not even gonna lie.
Let's shout out our socials one last time.
All right, so my name's Angel, and you can find me on Instagram at Wizard of Main Street, and on Storygraph and Book Fable under Angle Paradox.
Hey, I'm Mayuri. And you can find me at Patel MN on Instagram, or for my podcast account, Building Crafty Notions.
You can find me on Instagram, TikTok. Yeah, I don't even know anymore. At Unpenceivable. You can find me on Fable and Storygraph at, what is it? Paulita's World. And obviously here on the podcast, Creating Magic Podcast on Instagram. And then Dani.
You can find me at Mandrakes and Mischief on Instagram and on all the podcast accounts, as well as we don't have a start date yet. But on Fable, we have already created the book club to start Throne of Glass.
I'm so excited.
And we are going to buddy read with all of our friends. And you are invited to join us. So on Fable, it is under Creating Magic Podcast. Or
Creating Magic.
Creating Magic. I lied. It's just Creating Magic on Fable. If you can't find it, just shoot us a DM and we'll get you the link to that. So there's that. And until next time,
keep creating.
Idea to get us killed, or worse, expelled.